It was the Director of Corrections who first proposed a mandatory testing program for all emergency services personnel. Hilary Herman blamed the permissiveness in society in part for the chronic infiltration of narcotics into the prison system.
It's about time we have the legislation to ensure that zero tolerance of drugs. For example, if you have an officer who uses drugs at home, it wouldn't be a problem to see an inmate smoking marijuana. And the general attitude is that marijuana is not drugs and that cocaine and crack is drugs. So until we change that attitude, we'll continue to have that problem.
The police commissioner thinks the idea very good and has commended Herman for proposing it. However, John Broughton does not think it will be an open and shut case.
The difficulties are that contractually we have people who've joined certainly the Royal St Lucia Police Force who have no expectation of mandatory drug tests, and the difficulty then is that if they decline to take those tests, it's about how we manage that and what we do with it.
The fire chief notes that his officers need to have a clear state of mind when administering their duties. Leslie Fontenelle says such a law, though, will infringe on the right of officers not to be tested.
Where there are problems with abuse of drugs, illicit drugs, we have to take whatever steps are necessary to ensure that persons are not affected by that. So if there's a call for mandatory drug testing, obviously we'll have interest in that. But for such activity to be effective, it requires the appropriate legal framework.
Herman says there needs to be a zero-tolerance policy towards drugs, and the police commissioner agrees. Broughton says it is wrong for police to prosecute people who take drugs when they're guilty of the same offence.
I understand entirely Mr Fontenelle's concern. However, it's not an area that we should shy away from. It's not an area that we should back off because very, very clearly the abuse of drugs by prison officers, police officers, fire officers, ambulance officers is something that we shouldn't tolerate.
At one point, the fire service was noted for alcoholism, but the fire chief says that problem has been rectified. All three men think a legislative framework is necessary for mandatory drug testing to work. At present, that framework is not in place, and the police chief thinks it will only come after much negotiation. Clinton Reynolds, HTS News, Channel 4.